Thank you. Good evening. I have 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Here.
Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Pastor Gary Green from the Gospel Assembly Church in Bel Aire to lead us in prayer. Pastor Green.
Mayor Minaj, let's all honor God by bowing of heads as we enter in prayer to our God Almighty. Heavenly Father, you're so good to us. We give you thanks tonight, and we give you praise for all your mighty works. You're loving and you're good. You're gracious. We thank you for creating us, sustaining each of us day by day. Thank you, Lord, you made us in your image to exist in community side by side, working with other people. We thank you, Lord, for the city of Bel Aire. We thank you for our elected officials, the businesses. Thank you for the churches, the families, the individuals that make this city the great place that it is. We thank you, Father, that your Son, Jesus Christ, died for our sins, but he rose from the dead, and now he reigns as King over heaven and earth. Please grant that our city would be known as a righteous city, a city that confesses Jesus as Lord, a city of peace and hope, a city with happy homes, a city that welcomes the stranger, that cares for the needy, a city that defends the innocent from evildoers. We thank you, Lord, for civil government, those who bear the sword. We pray that as your ministers, that these city officials will be a terror to the evildoers. I pray our civil servants would acknowledge this calling and perform it faithfully. Be with our judges, our attorneys, our law enforcement. Grant that they never neglect nor abuse their authority, but they would stand firm for truth and justice. Keep them safe. Keep them from harm as they serve our community. Tonight, Lord, I pray for this council meeting that you give each council member and our mayor wisdom, guidance as they deliberate on the items set before them tonight. May every decision be righteous in your sight and for our benefit and for your glory. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in pledge allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we have a couple proclamations to read, and the first one I'm going to ask Mr. Greg David to read on Older Americans Month.
Proclamation, Older Americans Month, May 2024. To the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas May is Older Americans Month, a time for us to recognize and honor older adults and their immense influence on every facet of American society. And whereas through their wealth of life experience and wisdom, older adults guide our younger generations and carry forward abundant cultural and historical knowledge. And whereas older Americans improve our communities through intergenerational relationships, community service, civic engagement, and many other activities. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas Bel Aire must ensure that older Americans have the resources and support needed to stay involved in their communities, reflecting our commitment to inclusiveness and connectedness. And now, therefore, Mayor Jim Benage does hereby proclaim May 2024 as Older Americans Month.
Thank you. We'll also have a proclamation on Public Service Recognition Week, and Council President Justin Smith will read that proclamation.
To the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels, these unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. Whereas public employees take not only jobs but oaths. Whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, border patrol officers, Embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others risk their lives each day in the service to the people of the United States and around the world. Whereas public servants include teachers, inspectors, law enforcement, bus drivers, managers, engineers, public works, recreation employees, firefighters, accountants, customer service representatives, laborers, computer technicians, social workers, and countless other occupations. Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Jim Benage of the city of Bel Aire, do hereby announce and proclaim to all citizens and set seal hereto that May 5th through 11th, 2024 is Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, city, and county.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6 on the agenda for determining agenda additions. Are there any additions for the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. For tonight, several items have been included under the consent agenda. The minutes from the April 16th, 2024 City Council meeting, petitions for improvements to serve Chapel Landing 6, resolutions for improvements to serve Chapel Landing 6, 2 application for permits to sell fireworks, and approval of Planning Commission reappointments. Any discussion on the consent agenda? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Discussion approval of appropriations ordinance. So this appropriation ordinance covers expenses from April 9th, 2024 through April 30th, 2024, including 2 payroll cycles. The total expenditure amount to $2,291,672. Of this, $369,314 was allocated to infrastructure costs for new developments, which are funded through special assessments. Any questions or concerns on appropriations?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith?
I'll make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance number 24-08.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. So tonight, we have a couple city requested appearances. We have first Mr. Greg Lee from Carver, present modifications to preliminary design of the roundabout at 45th Street.
Do we have the promote for this? Okay. Well, good evening, council. Thank you for your time. Kinley with Garver. I'm just giving an update on the roundabout. We've modified it. I've reached out to all of you for some feedback. We looked at comments from this community on the webpage when we did that, and we've made a couple changes, and I wanted to kind of go over that with you just to give you some information and then get feedback from the council on how to proceed. So just an overview. Again, we looked at comments from the webpage. We got comments from council. One of the things that came back, and anybody who's ever driven to Old Town or through the Delano district knows how miserable the roundabout is there. And everybody said, don't make it like Delano. Right. So we went with a 110-foot diameter center island. Just for perspective, Delano is 72 feet. So our center island is larger than the entire pavement for Delano overall. And that doesn't include the other 24 feet of extra pavement outside of that. So this roundabout will be significantly bigger than the Delano project. Design target speed for the roundabout is going to be 25 miles per hour. There's some guidelines on speed differential, and because the roads around it are 40 miles an hour, we need to be targeting a speed of 25 miles an hour through it. They don't like you slowing it down much more than that for fear of causing rear end accidents and those kind of things. So that's our target design speed for it. It could end up being as high as 30 miles an hour when we get done, but right now we're shooting for 25 is what we're shooting for. But you don't want to be too much slower than your other traffic. One of the reasons why we're bringing it up tonight is we are finalizing all of our box design to turn in for review, and the location of the roundabout will have a minor impact on it. So we'd like to make sure that what we're turning in is going to work. And then also the property at the northwest corner is going to be impacted. So we wanted to, if we're going to do this, it gives the city opportunity early on to have discussions with that property owner. When we did this originally, let me turn that on. So when we did this originally, that's the exhibit that I had for the presentation, where I had just added the gray lines to show, the gray hatching to show where the widening would occur based on the original layout. And when you look at that, you can see that it barely got into this corner at all with the original layout. The sidewalk was going to be there a little bit. I didn't redo the walk, but it was a fair amount of impact, or limited impact here. The southeast corner, you could see it was getting down into the box a little bit with that. The southwest corner didn't have much impact. With the shift that we've done to the north, I hatched out the area that's now being impacted, and you can see it's been moved a fair amount northwest. One thing about this detail is these dash lines, I know they're hard to read on the screen, but those are pipeline setbacks and easements. And there's only actually 3,000 square feet of buildable space on this lot. The change that we're proposing only reduces the buildable space by 94 square feet. So no impact, and it's at the corner where you wouldn't really be able to do anything anyway. So this property doesn't have a lot of value. There's a total of 3,300 square feet of right-of-way acquisition we're proposing right now. So a little bit under 1/10 of an acre. The benefits to this, as you can see here, here's the box culvert. By pulling it up, we pull it a significant amount away from the box culvert here at the southeast corner. That will also provide additional room for any amenity you choose to do at that southeast corner in the future. There'll be more room for whatever you choose to do there. By shifting it to the west, our impact on this corner is really relatively limited. We still have some impact. This line here wasn't shown on the prior exhibit, but if we go with the standard, what the county does for a standard intersection take at a corner, that would be the standard take. And this line is actually already taken to that point. So this is probably what we're going to recommend for a right-of-way take at that corner when we're working with those folks on the frontage road. The other advantage this does is it doesn't make a huge change, but it improves the angle as you come into the road. You're not curving down. You can see here on the left, you're curving down pretty significantly before you turn hard through the intersection. This smooths out that transition, so you don't have to turn hard as to the right to go through the intersection, but it still maintains the need as you go through the intersection. You have to go around the roundabout to control your speed. The original, when we first laid this out, this was 2 straights, and we ended up with a tight radius here. So we modified this. That's a 60-foot radius on this corner. That's the tightest radius we have. Normally for an arterial street intersection, when you're designing, you design at 50 feet radius. So 60 feet's a little bit larger. So if we're doing a regular arterial to arterial intersection with standard signals, it's 50 foot. So this is still nobody's going to be going through that corner feeling like they can't make it. And that'll help with truck traffic and such, making that curve as well. There is a very small minor amount of right-of-way acquisition on this southwest corner in that reserve, but that's just a drainage reserve for the project. It doesn't impact any buildable lots. So we're recommending this shift. It will help. Its primary benefit will be helping this east-west movement be a lot more natural, where it won't feel like you're going as far as down to the south. But it will provide benefits on that southeast corner in particular, and it also reduce the impact over there on utilities and other things in that corner. With that, I didn't want to belabor it tonight. I'll just take any questions you have on it. So
are you far enough in designs that you can spec out what property needs to be purchased to do that?
Yeah, we definitely have enough to put together the track maps and have that discussion with them. There might be minor variations as we go through negotiations, or as the city's real estate agent would go through the negotiations, we could modify it. But yeah, we're certainly to the point where we could provide those track maps.
Okay. And have we entered any discussions with the city of Wichita, because that's west side of Oliver, city of Wichita?
We've had initial discussions with them, but that's certainly going to be an element. And that's going to be one of the more interesting parts about it is, if we're doing acquisition, there's going to need to be a discussion at the end of the day of where the actual limits of annexation need to be, and should those be modified to fit this intersection. So there's some work to be done on that in terms of either a maintenance agreement or actual changing some annexation. So that's a discussion that still needs to be had as well.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Mr. Lee?
So the thing I'd like to know tonight is if you're okay, we're not making any final. Everything is subject to change if it's necessary, but we're just wanting to know if this looks appropriate enough to you for the city to go ahead and start talking with right-of-way negotiations to make sure that actually ends up being feasible.
On the new 110-foot radius design that you were talking about, is there another one of those in this area, just for context and being able to view something this size?
I didn't get the dimensions on the one in Park City, but it's like I said, Delana was 72 feet. There's one more in the park over there in the.
That park is big.
The one in the park is 150-foot radius, but it's huge. There's another one in the park that's only, I think it's 85-foot radius, the one that's over closer to Central. So it's kind of in between those, but this is pretty typical. Generic roundabout sizes range from 100 to 110 feet for that inscribed circle diameter. So we're on the larger end of just basic urban arterial circles.
And is it that size that kind of drives the 25-mile-an-hour design?
Yeah,
So
there's
if you want a higher speed, you have to make it bigger.
correct. That's one of the issues. If you want a higher speed, the one thing that we have to do here is on the south side, we actually kind of adjusted the geometry here to keep this leg from being too straight. Because that's the one other thing you got to look at is you don't want to straighten it out too much where somebody can just blow in through it. So it's a combination of the inscribed circle plus your approach geometry. So that's why some of these, you see these funny little kinks in there. It's actually designed to force you to slow down as you enter it so you don't go in too fast. But yeah, it is a combination of those two.
Well, what I'm seeing looks fine, but I'm seeing it on paper. Until I drive it, I won't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm going to trust that you guys got the experience there. You know what you're getting.
Yeah, and most of our roundabouts that we've done, like we've done a lot of these in Arkansas, and most of those are in the 105 to 110 foot range. So that's just typical range of what we do on
So
these.
if you want to see one, go to Arkansas.
You've been meaning to go down there anyway.
I was
so.
down there a few weeks ago to see an eclipse, but I didn't see any roundabouts.
You needed to go to Conway.
Do you know what the sizes are
Almost
on the one
there.
up by Marion and Florence?
Those are much larger diameter on the highway. Those I did look at one of those, and I think one of them was 130 foot that I looked at. So they're larger diameter, and I think one was even larger yet. I think it was more like 150. But again, those are highway scale roundabouts, and so those are larger diameter.
I was going to say those worked fairly well a couple of weeks ago when I was out that way,
Yeah.
given the amount of traffic that was there.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to the speed differential. I mean, those actually do violate the principle because you slow down a lot from highway speed to get down through those. But the guidance on the urban ones is you don't want to go too much slower. Like 15 to 20 miles an hour is the most you'd want to slow somebody down. So.
Ken, I did have a quick question. You kind of talked about the benefits of shifting it north, but what trade-offs are there? Are there any negatives to shifting it to the north?
The additional right-of-way
Just a
acquisition
little
is,
bit of right-of-way.
it. There's really nothing else as far as that goes. It will slightly reduce our required box link on the south side if we move it to the north, so we'll save a little bit of money there. Of course, in the long run, if we go underground box all the way, a lot of that benefit will diminish, but it still will reduce the larger box there that goes under the road itself.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Yes.
that's what I needed for now. So is it safe to say that we're not making any binding action on purchasing property right now, but
Right.
the idea here looks good as far as proceeding to continue with researching this and moving on forward with this? And
Unless we hear an objection, I think so.
thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Gary O'Neill representing Bel Aire Lions Club. He's going to discuss the Lions Club 2024 application for fireworks retail sales permit.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't know why
My
that's
name
here.
is Gary O'Neill, and I live at 4967 North Hillcrest here in Bel Aire. I have with me tonight, representing the Lions Club, also our president, James Smith, is with us. Some years ago, I was put in charge of our application for the fireworks and trying to put that together. It's always gone very simply until Woodlawn. And this year has been an extreme challenge, and here we are at the 11th hour trying to get our application approved for this year. Earlier this year, in I think it was late February, early March, I talked with City Clerk, with Melissa. She advised, since we did not have a location, that we go ahead and get our application in. So I put in an application, location pending, because we've been told earlier by the city council, by the city, that the two lots we had previously used would not be available this year. The first lot, which the application before you tonight is with, is the Bill King lot, which is just south of Dollar General. And the other lot was one that's at the northwest corner of 45th and Woodlawn, which we had used last year and the year before. So we were informed those would not be available. So I've been scouring around trying to find other acceptable locations in Bel Aire. Was not able to do that. So about 3 weeks ago, I was driving by Bill King's lot on Woodlawn, and it was all nice and pretty. All the equipment's gone, all the dirt's gone. It just really looks beautiful there. So I contacted city manager, Ted Henry, to find out if that lot would be available this year. We've been told by our fireworks partner, Bellino Fireworks, that was the only location that they would use in Bel Aire would be the Bill King lot. If we couldn't get that this year, we were not going to have fireworks for the Lions this year. So Ted did some checking and talked with Ann, and it looked like the situation was going to be that lot would be available until after July 5th, because the way things are working on Woodlawn and how that's progressing, that lot would be available if Bill King were acceptable this year. So I contacted our fireworks partner, Bellino, 10 days ago. They got in contact with Bill King. He wanted to drive the lot, see if he thought it was acceptable again. They began negotiations with him. As late as Friday, things were put in the mail. And we've even got, I think mail came, according to Melissa, even today, and that we needed as well. But our application is complete. You'll see before you, it's got all the fire marshal information in there, all the insurance information in there, the map sites, copy of the check that's in the mail. And we would ask that you would grant us this fireworks permit this year. It's been a real struggle, and hopefully you will do that later in the meeting when it comes up on the agenda.
Yeah, it is up later on the agenda. So we will talk about it at that time. So thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Next is citizens' concerns. I see there are lots of folks here. I don't know how many are just regular citizens, but if anybody would like to speak to council, is certainly welcome to. If not, we can move on. So I don't see anybody volunteering, so we'll move on to council member reports. So start with Mr. Dean tonight.
Thank you, Mr.
We'll
Mayor.
figure it
Sorry,
out.
you caught me off guard there. I missed a meeting and now I don't even know how to do my report. I
gotta
do have
shake-
a short
We
report.
just have to shake it up. That's all.
I joke. I don't have a very short. I have a lengthy report. Actually, I've been gone a few weeks, so thank you though. I'll start on April 24th. I had the opportunity to visit with Principal Snodgrass at Isley Elementary, along with Fabian, who serves as the Director of Operations for ESD 259. In addition, Rebecca Armstrong, who is a Bel Aire citizen and serves on the tree board and is an advocate for bike and walk, joined us. The topic of discussion was bike walk for school programs. Isley received a grant. I know that I've brought this up in the past and has made the news, but they received a grant to help with education on bike walk programs. In fact, they have a soft start on those programs. They're going to do a little bike safety education during their field day here this month before school is out to help kids get them prepared for summer safety with bikes. Isley and USD 259 or Wichita Public Schools will also be working with WAMPO and Safe Routes programming on planning initiatives for the district. I let them know that our community stands ready to help however we can to support their safe walking and biking to school. I believe with the great public and private schools we have, along with parents and students, Bel Aire PD, Lions, and other great organizations in our community, that we can be a great model for how that would look in a community like ours. I also wanted to bring up that this Saturday, Kara Moment, who is also another Bel Aire citizen, has been organizing a local walking group with the help of Bel Aire Rec Center, who's been helping advertise those. They're open to anybody. The group will start hosting a second Saturday walking rotation through Bel Aire parks. The first will kick off this Saturday at Alley Park at 9 a.m. And then you can see more information on the Bel Aire Rec Center Facebook page for future dates. Coming up May 14th, I'll be attending our next K254 Strategic Planning Committee. I look forward to continuing to work on that initiative to represent Bel Aire and our K254 corridor members. May 16th, next Thursday, Bel Aire Rec Center will be hosting a summer camp parents meeting. So if you have your kids signed up, plan to attend, have your paperwork in. If you don't have your kids signed up, I do believe there's a few spots open. So join us for that. And then next Saturday, May 18th, I think I have this right, Bel Aire PD will be hosting their next fishing clinic, Cops and Bobbers. So that's all I have for my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Hamburg, would you like to give a report?
Thank you, Mayor. I had attended on April 19th the ribbon cutting for the Homestead senior residences that opened at 53rd and Oliver. April 25th, I attended the CCUA meeting just in the audience. I thought our city attorney, Ms. Schrock, she did a good job of kind of summarizing kind of where we've been and where we're going in terms of getting a fair and equitable cost sharing plan together. On April 27th, I helped for a few hours with the Shred Day here at City Hall. It's always a very popular event, and appreciate the Lions and the city and Waste Connections and the recycling companies that help put that event on every year. And the last thing I had was at our meeting 3 weeks ago, we voted on the Cozy Paving project. And I've talked to a number of Cozy residents and a few Aurora Park residents about my position on that issue. And I noticed in the breeze that I received yesterday that stated it was a 4-0 vote on the Cozy project, and just wanted to note that I actually had voted against that. It was a 3-1 vote. So just that minor correction in case residents thought I changed my position at the last minute or something. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the minutes were correct on
Yeah,
the vote.
that's
So
correct.
that's the important one.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr. David.
Mr. Mayor, I also attended the CCUA meeting on the 25th. We had some bad news on the influent and effluent, several exceedances on both this last month. And then I also appreciated the cost of service presentation that our city attorney gave. Thank you.
Mr. Welch.
I was expecting it. I took advantage of the Lions shred and recycle, and I actually went through the recycle line twice because I forgot something. But I'd like to thank them for presenting that. And I attended the Homestead Senior Living grand opening, and I think they're going to provide a necessary service to our area. That's all I have.
Very good. And last but not least, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, tonight I actually have a little bit of personal news to share with all of you. It's with some mixed emotions that I share that my wife and I have recently made the decision to purchase a home outside of Bel Aire. And with that, we plan to be moving into that property later this year. So as a result of that, I'm going to be resigning from my position as city council member. I've already had some discussions with the mayor regarding the appointment process for my replacement. I've asked that we go ahead and start that process. My resignation will be effective upon the appointment of my successor or July 31st. And my goal there is to just ensure a smooth transition with my replacement. I've given the city clerk and all of you a formal letter stating this for inclusion in the meeting minutes. I'm also going to resign my position on the Public Building Commission effective immediately so that we can go ahead and appoint a replacement to that committee. After talking with the mayor, I'm not going to be resigning from my position on CCWA. We have a lot that we're working there, and that position, from my understanding, doesn't actually require residency. And so, at least for the time being, I'm gonna see some of the things that we have active there through. So. Serving on the council has been an immense privilege and an honor, and it's been a pleasure working alongside each and every one of you to serve the residents of Bel Aire. And while I'm saddened to be stepping down from this role, I'm also excited about the new chapter that awaits my family. So that concludes my report.
All right, well, thank you. So while I'm disappointed to hear that Council President Justin Smith has decided to move out of Bel Aire, I also understand that he needs to do what is best for his family. And in light of this resignation, we have put together a timeline of events to find and appoint a new member of the city council. And I'll run over that real quick. So I'm going to now formally declare the city council vacancy. This then kicks in several activities. Our city attorney has worked through a timeline of events that will need to take place, and that can be made available to anyone who wishes to see it. The following is a subset of that timeline to highlight the most important activities. So per Bel Aire City Code, the vacancy must be filled within 120 days following the creation of the vacancy. So 120-day clock begins today, and with the resignation was announced in my formal declaration of the city council vacancy. So the vacancy must be filled by Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Justin's resignation from the city council seat includes his resignation from the city council president and resignation from the Public Building Commission. Each of these resignations are effective upon acceptance of his nominated replacement, or I think you said immediately.
Yeah.
On the Public Building Commission. So that's effective immediately because that's his discretion, not mine. So the position of member of Bel Aire City Council. So here's the process. All Bel Aire citizens interested in filling this position seat need to make application to myself no later than June 7th, 2024. That's a 30-day window that is in our policy. So that letter should provide some form of resume and letter of interest. Interested citizens are required to disclose in writing whether they have made any monetary contributions to a governing body member's campaign, including the mayor's during the previous election that was held 2023. And there better not be anybody says they've contributed to my campaign because there were none. Applications should be sent to my email. My email is jbenage@belaireks.gov. And a copy to our city clerk at mkrehbiel@belaireks.gov. And those are available on the website as well. As an alternative, you may mail or hand deliver to the city your application, but please be forewarned that I do not get mail on a consistent basis. So it may set for a week or longer before I see it. I will make a concerted effort to collect any mail that might be there on June 10th, since June the 8th is a Saturday. Please refer all questions to the city clerk. I will share all information from each applicant with all city council members. Bel Aire staff will advertise the open council seat via website, social media, and newspaper. So on June 7th, 2024, the deadline for the applications will close. On June 10th, I will be sure to send all remaining applications to all city council members. I ask that you each city council member take the time to review each application and interview those candidates you may wish to interview. On June 17th, 2024, I request each city council member to forward to myself only your rank order of the candidates who submitted applications. Only send these to myself so that we do not run into any issues regarding open meeting violations. This is not a vote. I will take your rank order into consideration as I decide the candidate. I will nominate for the fill the position of city council seat. I'm hoping I can nominate a candidate and the city council vote on a nominee at our June 18th, 2024 meeting. So the position of city council president, the council president presides over meetings in my absence and signs documents, if any, when I am not available. So please consider your personal interest in this position and or which current city council member, but not Justin, you would like to see in this position. We will have an agenda item on our next city council meeting, May 21st, 2024, to nominate and vote on a new council president. Excuse me. And then for the position of the Public Building Commission. The commission usually only meets once or twice per year. Members are the mayor and member of the city council and a citizen of Bel Aire. I, of course, fill the mayor's position. Gary O'Neill fills the citizen position, and you heard Gary earlier about Bel Aire Lions. But we need a member of the city council to fill the new vacancy. We need to have a PBC, as there are bonds issued by the PBC that have covenants that require the PBC to continue until those bonds are paid off in 2032. The PBC holds some property for the benefit of the city. The bond covenants require the retention of much of this property. Just so you know, this position will most likely be elected as secretary of the PBC at our next PBC meeting. And that meeting will need to be held in the next few weeks. Most likely it will be at 6:30 on June 4th, just before our city council meeting on June 4th. So please consider your personal interest in this position and or which city council member you would like to see in this position. And again, we'll have an agenda item on May 21st, our next meeting, to nominate and vote on a new city council member for the PBC. And I'll continue with the rest of my mayor's report. So on behalf of Bel Aire, and due to the fact that there was no time to get input for city council, this last weekend, I sent a note to the governor's chief of staff requesting that he please advise the governor that she should sign Senate Bill 37. That's tax cuts for all Kansans. It's time to stop embarrassing yourself and the state over this series of vetoes for insignificant differences in tax cut plans proposed and passed by a bipartisan majority. If she truly wants to prove she is middle of the road, she will sign Senate Bill 37. We don't get all we want when it comes to legislating. It's a negotiation that occurs, and Senate Bill 37 is a good product of that negotiation. Sign Senate Bill 37, and let's move forward. I continued that note stating that Theos also advised the governor that she should veto CCR 2096. This contains language on rebating taxes to businesses that claim the city is competing with that business. To Bel Aire, this is a serious public safety issue. Our Bel Aire Rec Center is a place for kids to be connected to the community. If we should have a competing business decide to locate in Bel Aire, then we will have to refund taxes to them. This will potentially kill the rec center and allow kids to fall through the cracks. We need our kids to connect to the community, and the rec center is one avenue that helps them to do that and provides them a haven for activities that are not so beneficial for their well-being. I told the League of Kansas Municipalities to add Bel Aire to the list that they are presenting to this governor concerning veto of CCR 2096. So then on April 19th, I attended the grand opening of the ribbon cutting for Homestead senior residents, as did Ms. Hamburg and Mr. Welch. And to my surprise, I became the default master of ceremonies. So clearly I made some mistakes, but we got through it. And they are already full with 100, and they have a 170 person waiting list. So I'm excited for this facility and look forward to its success and growth. Then on April 20th, I attended the Celebrate Trees event sponsored by the Tree Board on Arbor Day. And this is a great educational event about the importance of trees in our environment. I encourage the Tree Board to find ways to expand the education throughout our community so that everyone has a better understanding of how to be good stewards of the earth. On April 25th, I sent CCUA as well as Ms. Hamburg, Mr. Greg David, and Mr. Justin Smith. I think they've covered that adequately. I don't need to add anything to it. So now I would like to congratulate Alea Alvarado of Wichita Northeast Magnet High School for Best in category on her photograph entitled Michaela. She won this title in the 2024 Congressional Art Competition held at Mark's Arts. And then lastly, a meeting concerning a regional transportation plan, the bus service, will be held here at Bel Aire City Hall in the community room on Wednesday, June 5th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We need everyone's input on this in order for this to occur. There's a great opportunity to get a regional system in the metro area. Right now, we just have a Wichita bus system, and then Derby has their own system, and Hayesville has their own system. But this is an opportunity to get a regional system that covers all the northern part of the county. We need citizens to speak up and let the WAMPO folks know that this is something we really want done in north part of the county. And Park City, Keachai, Valley Center, Mays, anybody and everybody can and should show up to that meeting to help get that information across to WAMPO. I know that WAMPO knows that it's important, but we need the citizen support and the business support for it too. So at that, I will ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to give a really brief summary about the notices and publications on the City of Bel Aire website. This has been going on for at least 1 month now. The Bel Aire staff has worked very hard and has done a great job picking an icon and putting it on the very front of our website. It's almost in the very middle. If you hit the notices and publications icon, it will take you to a list of all the legal publications from the City of Bel Aire. I'm going to be giving a presentation on a couple of items at the very end of tonight's agenda, but I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. I spoke with the city clerk, and right now, the way the legal publications are published, they are published in date order as received. So you'll see 2024.01. That means January 2024.04 April, but it's very organized that way. I've learned about it because right now, this specific, the way it's used, this program, it involves a optical character recognition, OCR. What is optical character recognition? I looked into this a little bit more. Basically, a scanned document that is saved as an image, it can be deciphered by screen reading software used by the visually impaired, meaning that they can go ahead and do searches through keywords or phrases instead of having to go through every single image to look for what they are searching for. OCR is on the list of meeting with ADA compliance, so considering visually impaired visitors on our website. I did not realize that. That was very good to learn. People can start subscribing if they would like to. I just spoke with our city clerk today, and right now I think we have 1 subscriber, myself. And so I hope other people will subscribe, but all you do is go to the website and you can go to how to, and you can subscribe for this or any other things you'd like to be updated on. The reason I'm giving this brief summary, Mr. Mayor, is because it kind of ties in a little bit with the other items I'll be presenting later today. And I wanted to at least throw this out here that City of Bel Aire is trying to provide some notices, trying to become more technological, and that this is in a very organized fashion and for others to know about. And I was really excited to share about the optical character recognition. That is all for my report.
Very good. Thank you. Move on to the city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Had a nice scare yesterday, so I thought I'd run over what happens on a day when we have a tornado warning or some hail warnings in the city hall. What happens is Chief Atterbury, Kylie, our communications person, and I meet first thing in the morning to discuss our emergency operations plan. It's a large document that the City Council passed a few years ago, and we've always had one working. At the same time, Lieutenant Fox secures his vehicles. Right now, we don't have a large garage, so 2 police vehicles can fit in our garage downstairs, and then we park some in the overhang at the high school and the entryway of Isley. Marty and his staff secure most of his vehicles under their shelter. Deb downstairs takes our staff to a tour to the safety storage room in City Hall. So in case a tornado hits, everybody knows exactly where to go. Staff also discussed that what happens if there's customers inside of the City Hall. What do we say? What do we do? Kylie then after that meeting shares information with the public and answers questions. Chief contacts Sedgwick County Emergency Management to confirm and secure contact information. It's very important. We have the right contact information in days like they. Maria dust off, and we briefly discussed the declaration of local disaster emergency that the mayor would sign if that was the case, making sure that's available. Key staff members are instructed to take home laptops. What happens if City Hall is destroyed? We're going to have to set up a satellite office at the rec center, hoping it's not destroyed. Marty's gonna fill up all the backhoes, bobcats, and trucks that might be used. All the chainsaws are tested and sharpened that morning. Safety equipment, vest, and rain gear, along with gloves, are laid out on the truck beds. Barricades are loaded and ready to go at all the ones we own. Public Works has an actual radio system that if we don't want to rely on cell phones just in case coverages go out, we have radios that go home. I got to bring home one for the first time, and my daughter thought I was pretty cool. And then, of course, we work with local area developers with some erosion control measures to make sure that they're in with storm events like this. There's a lot of rain related to that. So that's kind of what our morning entails when something like this happens. And it's always nice to have a trial run and not actual real things. So that's what we did yesterday. On the event side, I think Councilmember Dean covered a lot of them, but curbside cleanup is May 18th. The Bel Aire Police Department's doing a fishing clinic on the same day in Central Park. And I think we posted it, but a little over 5.6 tons of shred materials was done at e-shred day, and 4,000 pounds of e-waste was recycled. Again, this is Public Service Recognition Week, and I hope all the employees, every time they talk to me, they feel appreciated, but I would like to stay in public. Thank you for all you do, all the employees of City of Bel Aire. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you going through the emergency action plan. I know that's a complicated, long, thick book, and I've got a copy of it on my desk at home as well. So, but I'm glad you only had to go through the trial run. So that's a good thing. All right. We'll move on to resolution, ordinance, and final actions. And the first item is item A, is the application from Bel Aire Lions Club for fireworks sales permit. And Mr. Gary O'Neill has already spoke with us a little bit about that. And so I don't know if we need more information. We're certainly welcome to call Mr. O'Neill back up if we do. Otherwise, if we would like to make a motion, you can do that. It's your call.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'll
Or
make a
David.
motion to approve the application from Bel Aire Lions Club for fireworks sales permit pending Sedgwick County Fire Marshal inspection and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. David, a second by Ms. Hamburg. I think I heard somebody else try to speak up, but they weren't quick enough. So, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Wait a minute.
Oh, you got some questions. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump ahead.
I'm gonna have to get a hammer or something.
Yeah.
This is more for Ann than anybody. Do you think we should block off left turn in and out of that location? I don't have any problem with the location or the Lions doing it. I just want to make sure traffic is controlled appropriately.
That is something that we can certainly look at. I can't give you an answer right off the bat, but certainly, it's definitely something we can look at.
Okay, well, with it still being under construction and the roughness and other factors, and it just seems to me that we may want to have no left turns in or out.
Yeah, I'll talk with the chief and then with Mr. Henry, and we'll come to a decision. And that's definitely a possibility. Appreciate you bringing it up.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
what is our confidence level that we will not have a bunch of heavy equipment operating on Woodlawn come the last week of June, first week of July?
I'd say 100% unless you guys want to put an overlay on there in the meantime.
Thank you.
Okay, so somebody's mic off. Everybody's mic on. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? I have a motion on the table to approve the Bel Aire Lions Club application for fireworks stand. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Move on to item B. This is the application for shocker fireworks. It's been received by city clerk and it needed additional information. Is Mr. Frasco here?
Well, I'm glad we were not here last night. It's a little bit better. So I have the fireworks stand at 45th and Oliver, and it's been there about 10 years. It's a charity-based fireworks stand. Heights Dance Group runs that. And we started out years ago with no address. So Sedgwick County gave us 4501 North Oliver for the drive. So if you don't have a building, then the post office doesn't really get involved. So your fire department and whoever. So since then, my power pole has an address now, 4608 East 45th. But actual fire department would come through the drive on North Oliver. If you need that changed, I can change the insurance, but we're going to kind of have to negotiate with Sedgwick County. I think they'd probably change it, but they listed that as 4501 North Oliver.
Yeah, I think the issue was that technically that's a Wichita address.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they get. So you'd be
Yeah,
4,500, I guess.
It has to be
drive.
even, and
But,
all the 45 addresses on the south side of 45th. You go north of 45th, there are 4,600 addresses.
That's what they gave me like 9 or 10
Yeah,
years
I
ago.
understand. I'm not faulting you.
But the power pole has got 4608 East 45th, of which insurance not a problem. It's just going down and
Does that
Did they
make sense
say
as 45th and not Oliver? I don't know the address numbers going that direction.
It's far enough east of Oliver that it makes sense. But I don't know if there's actually a driveway there.
no, there isn't.
There isn't.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
every property has like an official legal description that the county issues to it in
Yeah.
addition to the postal address. Can we use the legal description?
But when there's no building, then the postal thing's kind of, that's what I ran into. But I mean, it can be changed, but what did they say to you? Did they?
That's a good comment, Justin. I spoke with Sedgwick County and they said that there was no structure. Consequently, there's no address. And when we went to mobile land records and looked at the legal description, it has information for the property owner, but it doesn't list anything for Oliver or anything else. And then when I spoke with Sedgwick County Fire Department, they confirmed somewhat what Mr. Frasco is saying. And then speaking with the utility company, they said, well, they do have the electrical pole on the undeveloped property, which has the address of the 4608 East 45th Street. I did reach out to one of our staff members who's just very knowledgeable of that area and locations. He said that the 4608 is consistent with that location. It's an even number that puts us on the right side, and it's in that number range for the other homes that are just to the east.
Yeah, I think it's pinned on GPS. I think this is what this address, it's on GPS or something to that pole.
Well, I'm okay with that, but they switched the street. And when you switch the street, you might have changed the numbering. I don't know, because I don't know the numbers on 45th Street. Okay? Is it 4608 North Oliver? That makes perfect sense to me, but I don't know. I'm not the expert here.
It's one of those intersections. It's about the same both directions.
It might be. I just don't know. So here's what I suggest we might do. We know what the location is.
Yeah.
We know what we're approving. Let's just work through this address thing. Go on and approve this pending getting the correct reasonable address on it. I know he needs to have something so he can go to his insurance and say, this is what
I
it's
mean,
going
I
to be.
can, get it changed, but
I was gonna show council, of course you're all familiar with it, this is traveling north. And right over here is a driveway.
Yeah.
top right there, right there.
There it is.
This is the driveway, and this is what's causing a little bit of a confusion. When Mr. Frasco talks to the fire department, they're using this
That right there.
as it. And then if we go up another picture here, now we're on the driveway, we're going onto this vacant parcel. Right here, you can't see it, but that's the power pole. That's where Evergy has the address of the 2608. And then right over here, this home is like, I think 2604. No, I'm sorry, 4604. But just so council knows, we can use this address on the application. We all know what that is, that undeveloped parcel.
Yeah.
The houses to the east are 4,900, so 46 is probably about right. Well, no, those duplexes to the west dollar are 4,700, according to Google Maps, however right it is.
Are you talking about these, John?
Yes, those are 4,700.
And then up here are more, I believe. I think those are 48, maybe.
The houses to the right of your green pointer are 4,900.
But I did confirm with Evergy, and it's on the pole, the address of the 4608.
So apparently nobody can figure out what the address is.
Well, I would say that address is per the GPS, but
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
it makes sense to me. If there's a driveway on Oliver, it should have an Oliver address. If we can't figure it out, I mean, the GIS, we could potentially use the full legal description, which is the like west 150 foot of lots 11 and 12 and west 150 foot between said lots block 1, Kruger first edition, that type of legal description, if it's important to be that precise on it. I don't know.
I'll defer to you as what we can do there, because I don't know.
We can do that. And Mr.
Yeah,
Frasco's willing
yeah.
to
but,
do whatever helps with the city. He
Yeah.
was just relying on that specific address. that he
sure.
said was
And it
provided.
makes sense, like you said, the driveway's on Oliver, but hey, I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
But that
I'm-
pole,
I'm in favor of approving the permit. Just, I think we need advice on how to make sure it's appropriate to do so.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
the previous application we just approved, we approved to be determined, which was on the application. Can't we do the same thing on this one, Maria, and you guys can figure that out?
Absolutely, we
Okay.
can, because
I think we
everybody
all
on
understand
council
where it's gonna
knows,
be.
you all know where the location is.
Yep.
The only second item to be discussed regarding this specific firework was regarding lighting.
Yeah, so there's an issue there as you drive east on 45th Street. Some of the lighting is blinding to the traffic eastbound on 45th Street. I know it seems like it's a bit down there, but it is there. That road, as you can see, curves north. It banks north there, and it is blinding. I've driven that a few times myself. And
well,
I
what
have
we're going to
personal
do,
experience
we're
there.
not going to have a light tower this year. We haven't really had a problem with the neighbors, but there's an individual that drives up and down Oliver in the evening, and he said it blinded him. So we're going to pull the light tower. We're going to use low level lights
Mhm.
and not have a light tower anymore. But the neighbors, we haven't had any complaints. But I guess this one individual talked to the police a couple of years ago and came up to stand. He says, "Hey, when I turn on and go north on Oliver, it blinds me." You just wonder, it's one individual, but hey, we'll pull a light tower, not have a light tower, and work with solar lights that are low to the ground. And of course, the tent will be lit up, but the light's not going to shine on the street that far away. But we'll not have a light tower. it saves us $725. And of course, the charity gets half of that money back to them. It's kind of nice to have security, but we'll work around it and see how it goes, I guess.
Okay. Well, appreciate your doing that.
Yeah, we'll
That's
try
good.
that.
Okay.
But the neighbors, they're very helpful. The guy to the east, Daryl, don't know his last name right offhand. He actually checks on the ladies from Heights High School and makes sure that they're okay. We pay him to cut the lawn there and everything, and haven't had any trouble from the neighbors because we'd always pointed away from the north or south. But I guess this guy, I guess he, I guess it bothered him, and one guy's enough to change the rules, and hopefully it'll work out by working around it. We'll know. I mean,
Okay.
if it's safe enough for the people and stuff in there, but
Well, yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
The
But,
proof will be when we actually see it. But it sounds like you've got a plan there that will work. And I think that's
I
good.
think it will. And we give all of our charities half of the net profit for working. There's no investment. And I know, like the Lions, they work really hard and they benefit the community. And it's tough when you lose your lot or have to move and stuff. But
Yeah.
without them, they cover a lot of things in our community.
Yeah, they do.
Because I have 2 or 3 Lions clubs, and they provide a lot of money for like Colwich schools and different things like that. So I share his pain.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information. Any questions that any members of council have for Mr. Frasco?
So do I need to go to the fire departments and run this?
No, right.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, our city code has a specific ordinance when it comes to parking lot lighting. That lighting used to illuminate parking areas shall be arranged, located, screened to direct light away from any adjoining or residential areas, and definitely not towards any street right of way. And I've spoken with all of the firework applicants, and Mr. Frasco has come up with these ideas on his own to try to be as helpful as possible to the council and his neighbors.
Good. Very good. Thank you. Any additional questions or discussion? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
That was
Mr.
my only
David?
question is, can we let the Sedgwick County Fire Marshal determine that final address then and stick with the original motion?
At this time, we'll be looking at the address of the 4608 East 45th Street North, but also I'm going to speak with Mr. Frasco because we may be using that legal description, but at least for tonight, you can defer to that, and it's a Bel Aire address within the corporate city limits of Bel Aire, Kansas.
I'll motion to approve the application from Shocker Fireworks at the 4608 East 48th for fireworks sales permit pending Sedgwick County Fire Marshal inspection. Authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Dean, motion by Mr. David, and a second by Mr. Dean. Any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion approved 5-0. Move on to item C. This is in connection with the issuance of industrial revenue bonds, and this is a few years ago. The city took a legal interest in real property and the facility financed by the bonds. The leases of the real property and facility to North Web LLC in exchange for rental payments that were used to make debt service payments on the bonds. The bonds have matured, and the company has exercised its option to purchase the bond financed facility. This resolution will authorize the city to deliver various documents in connection with the redemption of the bonds, including the warranty deed, bill of sale, termination of bond documents, transfer to the real property, and the facility to North Web LLC, free and clear of any bond document encumbrances. So Sarah Steele with Gilmore and Bell is here to answer questions. Ms. Steele.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sarah Steele, I'm an attorney with Gilmore and Bell. You probably know Kevin Cowan a little better than me, but he's one of my law partners. This is hard to believe that the bonds were issued almost exactly 11 years ago, and they have fully matured. So there's simply an unwinding process that is contained within the lease that was entered into back in 2013. And we're following that process and allowing the city to be eliminated from any chain of title on this property. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution of the governing body of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property to North Web LLC and authorize all required signatures.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. David. Any additional questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a fast question. I don't think I've been here for the unwinding part of a bonding process. This is standard. This was not a unique
This is-
situation. This is what happens when
This is
the bonds go off.
exactly in line
Okay.
with the documents. More common today, we don't have the warranty deed, but back in 13 we did. So yes, very common.
All right, thanks.
Very good. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. On item D, so this is work order 2404 with PEC. The city's ready to initiate design on the 2024 street preservation program projects, and the city has been working with PEC to develop the 2024 street maintenance plan. The agreement presented with this report includes fees to develop bidding documents and assist with procurement of a contractor to perform this work. A contract for inspection services will be forthcoming, and the cost of improvements for these projects will be paid by the Street Maintenance Fund. And Ms. Ann Stevens is here to answer questions.
So as the mayor said, this is a contract for the street maintenance program. I've actually started doing some work with PEC. We have walked the Pearson's neighborhood and we have walked the Lawn Terrace neighborhood and identified areas primarily of curb and gutter that need to be replaced, as well as some street pavement. I guess in addition to Lawn Terrace, we also walked some of Bel Aire Heights. That was kind of an older neighborhood. We do have the overall master service agreement with PEC. This agreement is over and above that. So we have the $10,000 a month that we're spending with PEC anyway for assistance with just random miscellaneous projects that come up that take around 4 to 5 hours to complete for PEC. This is much more involved. We did have some discussions regarding the microsurfacing and scrub seal that had come up. The contractor was ready to come in. They had actually started moving their equipment in for scrub sealing. I was like, wait a minute. That has not been approved by council yet. So we did put a halt to that. So that will be a kind of a discussion that's upcoming as what council would like to do with the 2024 microsurfacing and scrub seal. It is still a possibility that we can go ahead with the microsurfacing. The scrub seal probably is off the table for the prices that we had in 2022. It's kind of been a long drawn out process, but so we're still working on it. Luke had a family issue that he had to deal with tonight. He did send me some information. The pavement marking, we're at $147,000. Microsurfacing and Woodlawn and Quail Ridge, that's still kind of to be determined. The Pearson Street repairs that we had marked out was $86,000. The Lawn Terrace and Bel Aire Heights repairs were $94,000. So there's still, a fair bit of room in that budget to use. We had originally planned $201,000 for microsurfacing Woodlawn and $71,000 for Quail Ridge. So there's some money there that we need to play with. I am not prepared tonight to give you additional information and kind of have that discussion. So I will work with Ted on coming up with either a workshop or another council meeting to go through with that. The microsurfacing that should have finished last year that just kept getting put off and put off and put off due to multiple reasons is still scheduled for May 20th. So a start of May 20th. So that is still forthcoming. But the contract before you tonight is just for the design services and the bidding services for PEC to help get all of that put together and ready to go out for bid.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
all of these items were items that were part of the 5 and 10-year street program that we discussed at a workshop a while back, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like
That
20.
they all looked like they were those projects. I just wanted to make sure that to tie the pieces together, this is the execution on the planning that we've already and prioritization that we've already talked about.
The only piece that was not was the striping. And that is something that I myself have observed. I have had several residents and friends who travel through Bel Aire saying, hey, I can't see where the road markings are. I've had the police tell me the same thing. And so I think that is, in my opinion, that's one of the most important things that we can get done is to get that restriped. Everything else has worked. Yeah, it's maybe not the best shape, but it's still working. So yeah, that's the only thing that was not included.
Yeah, and I remember us talking a decent amount about that. And I think the main road we talked about on the striping was 45th between Oliver and Woodlawn, and we were debating what type of striping and should we stripe it. And I don't see it on the list, so it looks like we've decided to just hold on that for right now.
That is correct. The council had requested that we pull off any roads that have any reasonable certainty of being touched in the next couple of years.
Well, I'm excited to see that we're going to get that done. Yeah, I'm surprised, and I know it's a sign of a side, but we're going to have 2 projects start on May 20th. We're going to finish the Oliver one, and we're going to start the 53rd Street on May 20th. Is that correct?
I have not had a firm confirmation
Okay.
on 53rd Street. That Kansas Paving they've been working with Trans Systems, and I do not have a
Don't have it.
firm date
Okay,
of
that's
when
fine.
that's going to start. They're still, as far as I know, they're still waiting for information on the box culvert when that's going to be delivered because it's a completely separate out of their normal production
Right.
schedule.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Let's just stay with this agenda item. So, okay. Any additional questions or discussion concerning this agenda item? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I'm going to make a motion to approve work order number 24-04 with PEC for civil engineering design services for the 2024 street maintenance program and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean. Any more questions or discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item E. We tabled this item from last city council meeting. We received bids for the project paving of in Aurora Park, 40th and Parkwood. They were higher than original costs outlined on the January 2023 petition. At the April 16th meeting, council had a discussion about options moving forward, but ultimately decided to table the bids in order to get more detailed cost breakdown from Garver. And Ken Lee from Garver is here to present and answer questions. And I did send an email to Ann about this with my just reviewing what I was understanding and to see if I had understanding this correctly. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not get a chance to
Okay.
see that. So,
Okay.
well, good evening again, Kenley with Garver, 1995 Medfield Road. We did go through this, and one of the things that was desired was a more clear breakdown of trying to establish what's a drainage cost, what's a paving cost, to try and figure out a fair way to allocate the cost for the project. So just to kind of talk about what's going on here again, the gray hatched area here in the top right is the area where the residents had signed the petition to get the road paved. The remaining areas where only the street is hatched are the ditches where we were going to do just minor grading to clean up the ditches, but basically replace every culvert pipe in the project with it, but get the ditches cleaned out and restore those so they drain more uniformly and those type of things. So that's the difference between the two projects. And just looking at the base bid, just some numbers here, and I'm going to have a chart here in a minute, but the low bid was Kansas Paving at $717,000. The next low bid was Pearson at $786,000, and then APAC was over $900,000. So Kansas Paving was a clear low bid on it. When we broke out the cost, looking at it, we had $181,000 that was pipes and items that related specifically only to the ditches. And the city had originally, part of the petition was $96,000 was the original agreed upon price. The paving items total was $535,000. And then the other project costs that the city had not made any obligation to pay was another $104,750. So looking at the $717,000 and subtracting off the $104,000, you end up with a net cost to the benefit district as things sit right here of $640,000, which is $29,000 per lot. That works out to $161 per month. The original estimate was $147 a month. Now, with the way petitions work, there is adequate funding with the way the petitions work to cover that difference, because there's an escalator clause that helps cover those kind of things. So the project doesn't require a repetition to be able to do this as it is. So the city, as this sits here, would be taking on an additional $181,000 or almost $90,000 more cost than originally anticipated to try and keep the cost to the residents at a minimum. So then we looked at, in the discussion here, as far as breaking it out, with that $181,000, that was the as-bid drainage improvements. We had bid the other area with all HDPE pipe, not RCP pipe. The paved area, the petition had included RCP. So with the way, when we went through and we discussed it with Kansas Paving, the low bidder, they said that if we switch to HDPE pipe in lieu of the RCP, we can save $50,000.
Can you explain the difference in those, please?
So the RCP pipe is reinforced concrete pipe. It's the most durable pipe. It's the longest lasting. HDPE pipe is a high density plastic pipe. Most of the residents who've been adding pipes in that neighborhood in the last few years have been putting in HDPE pipes. That's what they've been doing. A gentleman put one in like 2 years ago, and then I had just talked with Keith Price and Ann about another one where somebody was wanting to put in one out there. So it's what's been going in out there. It's a durable product. It doesn't corrode the way that metal pipes can. So the only thing is don't punch a spike through it, because you can put a hole in it if you're not careful. But as long as you don't willfully destroy it, they last.
Ken, just to clarify, the as-bid drainage improvements are just in the Parkwood Lane to 40th paving area.
This is only looking at the base bid.
Okay,
Correct.
just clarifying.
Yeah, correct. You are correct. So the 181,000 share that would be paid for the city, if you were to take all the drainage drainage objects, it drops to 132,000, which the original petition amount was 96,000. So it closes that gap pretty significantly. Now the alternate two, which is that other area, if you add in the original 181,000 plus the 170,000 for all two, that was $355,000. With the reduced price, it drops to $305,000. So going into more of a table type format here, and I know those numbers are kind of small. What's that?
Go back to that slide. I couldn't read it as fast as you were talking.
Okay. So on this one here, at the bottom of it, what I did here is, this is the sum of the 181,000 there plus the 170,000. That was the alternate two bid to redo all of the ditches and culverts in the rest of the project.
So we're not saving any more money on different pipe on the
Well,
rest of the
no, but if you
project?
switch to the new pipe, it saves you $50,000, so it drops to $305,000.
That's across the entire Aurora Park development.
The $50,000 still only applies to the petition project.
So what if how much pipe are we going to have to use on the rest of the ditches?
That was already set up with HDPE pipe. It's already taken care of.
Okay.
We had looked at that one differently when we added that in, and it's kind of complicated. We actually were only going to do partial replacement, but going through it with the contractors, they said, if you ask me to carefully remove a culvert pipe, a metal culvert pipe, it's going to get destroyed. So we ended up switching gears, and in discussing pricing, we switched that to HDPE originally. So that's why there was kind of a cost discrepancy earlier where you're like, why is this one so much more than the other one? It was the RCP pipe was the big cost driver there.
Okay. So the HDPE pipe, you're not proposing that for the culverts though, are you?
It's only for the driveway culverts, not for crossroad culverts. Crossroad culverts would still be concrete pipes. So the crossroad culverts that are in this, that go under the roadways that get the additional loading, and I appreciate you bringing that up, those would remain as concrete pipes because you don't want your cross street pipes. That's a more severe deal that impacts a lot of people.
So I understand this HDPE pipe a little better.
Mhm.
You put that in the driveway culvert.
Yeah, it
correct?
would be the driveway
Okay,
culverts.
so you said that it is more susceptible to damage.
Only, well, I mean, where we see problems is if somebody drove a fence post through it, you can damage it.
Right.
Where a metal pipe, now it would go
That's
through
gonna-
it'd go through a corrugated metal pipe just as easily, but a concrete pipe wouldn't. So it's a concrete pipe is more robust, but it comes at a much higher cost. And in this instance, it's one of those things, just trying to value engineer it. The people shouldn't be driving fence posts in their driveways anyway, so it really shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
So it's not anything we worry about. And like I said, the residents who've been putting in pipes, they've been putting in HDPE.
I'm going to assume that the driveway culverts are going to be extended far enough out that it'd take a pure idiot to not be able to see where they go.
Well, yeah, they'll be adequately length to where they're not going to get buried immediately or anything like that.
So, I mean, they'll be into the rest of the ditch, and
yeah, they'll extend out past the grading.
so they'll shine up green or something, whatever color they are.
They're black.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they won't stick out noticeably. They're fairly innocuous. So when we're looking at that, that's what these two numbers represent, is the $50,000 savings if you were to look at doing HDPE, but do the whole project. So as far as looking at the whole picture here, the thing that you as the council need to evaluate is looking at what we've got here. The paving total, the total that would go to the benefit district is $640,000. The total paid for the city on that would be either 180 or 130, depending on which route you wanted to go on that. Then the next question is do you want to accept the ad alternate for 174,000? There's really, see here, the cross street culvert pipes are RCPs on that, but they're already HDPE pipes. They were already budgeted that way originally on the other phase. So, so the question is, do you want to go ahead and accept this bid and then the question is do you want to go with saving the $50,000 on the value engineering and reducing the cost of the project a little bit? So I'll take any questions you have now.
So I spent a little time with this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I don't know. Days run together, but it had to be yesterday. So today's only Tuesday, right?
Correct.
And as I went through this, I came up with the same numbers you did, actually, that the construction cost for the special assessment is $640,260. And then if you did add alternate 2 bid, that is the 355, 324. So what I was going to suggest, and of course I can't make motions here, but I can suggest what I think a motion would be, just considering the paying all the drainage for the entire area for 355, 230, 324, and and assuming we're not accepting alternate 1 or alternate 3. I think alternate 1 removed the concrete from the intersection, and alternate 3 is doing everything in concrete. If we don't accept those, then this motion would ask that we approve the Kansas paving quote in the amount of $717,257 base bid, plus the alternate 2 drainage in the amount of $173,577. Cost paving includes the engineering inspection, utility relocation not to exceed $640,260 to be assessed as special assessments to the benefiting property owners, and the total cost of drainage improvements not to exceed $355,324 to be paid by the city of Bel Aire. And for the record, these drainage improvement costs are being paid by the city to accommodate for delayed maintenance of the drainage ditches in this area. And that was just what I put together as a proposal. This is, to me, this is a pretty complicated deal, and there's lots of moving parts. And I didn't know about your value
Yeah,
engineering at the time. So if we want to do that, we could reduce that cost not to exceed on the drainage to $305,000.
Yeah, and the issue there is working with Kansas Paving, they have a subcontractor who's doing the actual work. So trying to get them coordinated to get the numbers together. It was actually 4:00 this afternoon. I was still finalizing the numbers with them. So if you called me at 1:00, I'd have said I'm working on it. So, so it's been a push. Of course, they're also working on other projects out there, so they had to get their time in. But so working that out with their sub was what delayed that. So I apologize for not having that information to you sooner. But like I said, I was working on that up to 4:00 today. But it's an opportunity if the other number feels too high, the 355, it feels too high. I've talked with Ann. She's comfortable with the HDPE pipe, and it's a way to get the project done and save the city $50,000.
I'm confused again. I thought the 50,000 was coming out of that base bid of 717.
The 355, that's a combined. That's the total drainage
Another
of.
slide again.
Yeah. So the 355 is actually the drainage from the base bid plus all of alternate 2. So the 50 still applies in both cases. It still applies.
In your spreadsheet on your screen, it's the bottom left-hand column.
Yeah, I see, but it doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm asking questions.
All right.
So the adult 2 was 173 for all of Aurora Park except for what's being paved.
Correct. And that's there in that bottom right corner there.
And that stays that price.
That price doesn't change, correct?
Okay. So the 50,000, then if we go to the HDPE pipe, which number does that come off?
It comes off of that number right there.
Which is,
it comes out of the base bid drainage total, and it reduces it from 181 to 131 out of the base bid.
and that's only for the area that's being paved.
Correct.
Okay, so the base bid of 717 would become then 667.
Correct.
Okay.
That's where I was getting thrown off. Somebody was throwing out 355, and I'm like, where in the world does 355 come in the numbers we got?
And that was Jim, because I had not given him the information earlier. The numbers he was reading was the original numbers before the 50,000 was taken off.
Well, that's because he was adding 2 projects together, and I think we should be looking at one project kind of separate from the other.
That all.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right. Fine. We can pass it with two separate motions. There's nothing
No,
wrong
no,
with
I'm
that.
okay with doing it in one motion. I just want to make sure we're doing it right, because what we're paying out of the base bid is we're going to pay some of this cost on behalf of the residents. The city's going to pay part of it because that's what we agreed to do in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But if we lower that base bid by 50,000 and we still pay what we originally agreed to, where do we come out?
So originally, the original agreement was 96,000 was the percentage that we allocated. And to be honest, that was an arbitrary number based on an estimate of what the overall project was going to cost and prorated backwards. So it was a number that was picked based on estimated costs, and it was $96,000. So it would be to make this project work, it would need to be increased to roughly $131,747. So I'm not going to do any more math in my head. So
Well, that's go back to the other slide. You keep showing me this slide. I can't even read. I got it in front of me,
okay,
but I don't have the other slide. I don't think.
okay.
You don't.
So that 131.
So that
Is that 35,000 or so difference?
35,000 difference from what?
Yeah, I was
We're
going to
all
get
trying
that. I
different
was going to get
numbers
the
here.
exact number for you here. So it's going to be the difference is going to be $35,747. So it'd be an increase of $35,747 above the 96 that was originally agreed to.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to, and nobody was getting me there.
So, yep.
Thank you, Tyler.
Ken, I did also have a follow-up question, and not to muddy the waters too much, but we've talked about doing this new road gravel across Aurora Park. Is there any concern if we move forward with this regrading the ditches, a new pipe, that we're worried about that material filling in something that we just regraded? Should we consider something different, or should we pause and rethink the drainage piece? I'm just being devil's advocate.
Well, honestly, until you pave that roadway, it's inevitable that you'll end up with silt transport and material being deposited into the ditches. It's inevitable. I mean, it's taken 50, 60 years to get to where we are right now, because I think that project was built in the 1950s, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. So it's taken 65 years to get to where it is. So it's one of those things that it'll take a long time for it to become to get to where it is today.
It'll be a marked improvement.
But it would be a noticeable improvement in the short term. But yeah, there's no denying that if that road is not paved, it's only a matter of time that and now it still works today. I mean, it's one of those things that no houses are flooding. There's some standing water in the ditches. There's some culverts that aren't functioning great, but it operates today. It just operates poorly. This would restore it to working well for the foreseeable future. But there will be a day where if you don't maintain it, if you don't keep it clean, yeah, they'll start to silt in again.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'm having a hard time with the alternate 2 and spending the $170-some thousand on the alt 2 for that reason, because it would be better, but it doesn't. I'm not sure that it actually solves $170,000 worth of problems, and it's inevitable to come back. We've heard a lot from Aurora Park in the past about the dust, and when the dust complaints came up, we started to also talk about the drainage. And I remember fairly clearly some residents reminding us that their complaint is the dust, not the drainage. And I think we've made a lot of progress in resolving the dust with the new gravel. Folks seem to be happier, and so I'm wondering, is this really the right thing to chase on these ditches? And I'm interested in opinions if we're seeing something that makes us really think that we should go do this.
I think it is something we should do. And the reason I do say that is because we've been in a drought for the last 2 or 3 years, and we've not seen the problems with the water. But there have been yards flooded, and there have been floods in that area when the rains come. We just haven't seen them lately, and that's an issue. And I don't know what our liability there is, but we do have a duty to try to help protect their properties from the flood.
One other thing I'll mention as far as another benefit to proceeding with the project is the pipes at, I'm going to say it's 37th and Harding, but I'm probably wrong on that intersection. Those are undersized pipes, and they were in poor condition. They're failing. Those would be replaced. So our hope would be that you would see an improvement in they're still going to overtop on the largest storms because there's downstream issues that would need to be resolved. But the new pipe with more efficient pipe, instead of being corrugated metal pipe, you'd have RCP pipe. You'd see an improvement in the flow conditions, so the road wouldn't overtop as frequently there at that one intersection.
After thinking about that 3 weeks ago, our discussion, and Mr. Smith brought it up about like sort of the deal was we're going to kick in on the drainage if we do this holistic solution, but the residents haven't been happy with what the city has done. Is there any in-between solution? Like, is there any piece of equipment that our public works could rent to deal with that's somewhere in between the costs that isn't this expensive?
Well, and I think one thing that Ann talked about is the only in-between solution would be to identify problem areas and fix like a few hundred feet at a time as they came up where they become the most problematic. That's really would you agree that's really the only other solution would be just incremental repairs?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's if the council does not move forward with this, then the Public Works would be basically going back to what we've done in the past and making a C section or a U ditch to do the best we can to get the drainage. But in all the areas that we have done that in, we're doing the best of our capabilities with what we have. And the residents are going to be much happier if we can get somebody else to come in and help us. The in between, is just doing it what we can with what we've got. There really is no piece of equipment that we can rent to get it any better. It's just kind of, it is what it is. And I go down, my horse is on a gravel road. I drive 1.5 miles of gravel, and the township comes through and just takes their blade and just cuts a section in, pulls all that onto the road, and there it is. I mean, it's a county road, so you're not dealing with residents, every couple hundred feet, but it's part of living on a gravel road. There's not really any good solutions unless, as the mayor said, you pave it, and that's not on the table here except for the one piece.
Thanks.
And the one thing I'll also add is I know that the city's been experimenting with different kind of rock and those kind of things that are hopefully more durable, so you're less likely to break down than some of the older products were. So hopefully if you do decide to proceed ahead, you're not going to have an immediate problem with the ditches, and hopefully the right proper rock type will reduce that problem down the road as far as making it a longer term problem. But like I said, to be fair, 60 years from now, if you don't maintain the ditches, they'll look like they do in 60 years. They'll look again. They will be the same again. It's just the way it is. But it's one of those things. Do you spend the money once every 60 years to fix it?
I think we need to do the ditches all at once so we can get the drainage right. If we do one piece, then we end up with we may not match the drainage correctly. We'll end up with a wet spot or something that it just doesn't drain right, is my thought on that.
If I'm remembering right from last time, the petition area would not be affected either way with the way things flow to the west and all that if we didn't do the drainage, it would cause no issues with the petition area. Is that correct?
Correct. They're designed where if it didn't happen, you're not going to create a problem for them. It's just, to his point, you would still have the continuing problems in the other areas.
Mr. Mayor, and I just want to be clear, I also want the ditches to be nice. I would like them to be done. It's just a lot more expensive than I expected. $180,000, that's almost 2 mils of tax revenue, which is a lot. And so just want to really make sure that we're going to get the value out of that investment.
I understand that concern, but it's been put off for years, and we got to pay it sometime, and I think it's going to just keep getting higher and higher priced.
Mr. Henry?
And here's where we got to think back. In 2016, we passed the stormwater fund. That's what this utility is specifically designed to improve around the city, is stormwater runoff. They picked an arbitrary $2 per resident, $10 per business at the time. We haven't opened that up. It should be calculated based on impervious surfaces. There's a formula that most people use. So right now, that's kind of where this debt service is going to come from, is that fund, because that's what that utility is here to provide. So general fund is the mill. This type of expense is more of a stormwater fee. Now, can it absorb? Right now, we're talking around $30,000. We might have to do a transfer from the general fund to cover that. However, we have other mechanisms to maybe say, hey, this is the real cost of improving the stormwater around our city, and this is what it's going to cost to do it. And that's where Barry comes in and saves the day. No, with the budget, and that's discussed in the budget process as well.
Yeah, and to his point there, when he's talking about that, like City of Wichita, they use what they call ERUs, which is equivalent residential units. So when you do a new business in the City of Wichita, you have to show how much impervious area you are, and the city creates a calculation of how much you pay into the stormwater fund based on your impervious area on the project. So that's an example of what he's talking about. So like if you get just for instance, when you're looking at those huge commercial buildings, warehouse buildings down the road, those would be fairly high ERU generators. Where right now, if they're $10 a month, they're not.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
So if we do more and more of these projects, we should expect water and sewer bills to go up. to add additional fees for stormwater.
In the world I'm envisioning, we have a CIP for stormwater issues and we attack it much like we are today. Now, the problem we have before us tonight is the priority of those stormwater. Is this the priority of the stormwater fund? And that's for you to decide the priority.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
And just one more point to refresh, we are saving quite a bit of money if we do the whole drainage in Aurora Park together. Is that correct?
To the point made a minute ago, it's not going to get less expensive over time. I think the contractor priced it aggressively to get the whole project, but if you were to come back later and bid this later, I don't think you're going to get it cheaper.
Yeah, he's almost half of the other two bids.
Any other questions or discussion?
One last, you did a great job of getting the price down for the petitioned area. It looks like it's just a little over 10% of what we talked about last time. Has anyone spoken to City Hall or anything about concern with that?
I haven't received any phone calls and I'll open it up to the council members. I'm not sure they have or not.
I did receive some communication from some concerned citizens, but that was actually the thing I wanted to know. I did reach out and ask Ted for kind of an estimate, and they presented it tonight. It was roughly $15 a month more, for the petition. So it wasn't as drastic of an increase as I had expected doing my quick math before we came tonight. So I'm glad to see that, and for that reason, I'll support this. I think doing the project, and the Parkwood Lane folks have waited a while to get the paving portion done. And I'm going back and forth on the ditches. I can see both sides. I think that the thought that the cost isn't going down is probably playing a big factor for me on it. So I think I'll be supporting the base bid and the alternate too to help take care of the rest of Aurora Park drainage.
Yeah, and I'll just add in that if the city had, if without the HDPE change, and if the city held it to the 96, my estimate was $191 a month. It would have been an additional $30 a month higher for the residents if the city isn't willing to help, and if we weren't able to get the $50,000 reduction on the other.
The other thing we had here was the alt 3 for concrete. My preference for most streets is concrete, but I think maybe in this neighborhood, asphalt's okay. And I want other people's opinion on that, because it's just a little bit different kind of neighborhood.
I wouldn't do it as concrete.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
I also generally have a preference for concrete, and in this specific case, the concrete, like the percentage extra, is not high. However, it is a unique neighborhood in that it's really large lots, really spread out. That's not going to have a lot of traffic, and so I'm a bit conflicted. Part of me thinks that we really need to have kind of the mental models that we apply and have the consistency there. Otherwise, everyone that comes in is going to explain to us why their development is unique and why they don't want to have the specials on the property for the concrete streets, which ultimately reduce the specials, or which ultimately increase, the specials that they pay, and reduces the maintenance costs for the city over the life of that project. Because that's the purpose of the concrete, is it gives us a long time before we have to do absolutely anything to that street, and it's going to have a longer life overall. So I'm conflicted with that, and it also isn't lost on me that this project is a little bit different in that individual residents have petitioned to do it, not a developer. And when they petitioned, they were thinking about a monthly cost, and the asphalt already exceeds the monthly cost that they were thinking about. And that aspect of it maybe does make me feel a little bit different about this type of a project, where it's been brought about by citizens, a large collection of citizens.
I would tend to agree. And I also think of these streets as not major arterials, and I would tend to apply some of the concrete logic to maybe some of the larger streets that we're building, and ones that will have full storm sewer and not open ditches. Kind of my thought process in going with the asphalt and saving a little bit of money for the residents too.
So I had made a proposed motion, but I don't know, that was before we understood this $50,000 thing. So,
I'm going to throw one out and see how well it flies.
okay.
I will make a motion to accept the base bid from Kansas Paving and alternate 2 for a total bid amount not to exceed $890,834. And the city will pay $131,000 in costs plus the cost of Alt 2. And authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
I would ask that we add to that a specific wording about the drainage improvements to memorialize that, so that 3 years from now, somebody's not saying, why are we doing this?
Okay.
Okay.
The 131,000 is to pay for drainage improvements.
Well, yeah, it's, yeah, 100, well. Are you
That's-
taking the let me ask you a question. Are you
I don't
taking
care how we specify
HDPE
that.
out?
No, I think so. And I should have mentioned that we would use the HDPE.
Okay.
So you'd
That's why
subtract
this is-
50,000 from your.
No, I would leave the numbers as I said, but it would be to use the HDPE pipe.
But it's a not to exceed. Is that what you said, not to exceed?
Not to exceed 717,000 plus the alt 2
Okay.
using HDPE, with the city paying 131,000 for drainage improvements plus the cost of alt 2 for the ditch.
Okay. And then we memorialize that we're paying for that because of deferred
Maintenance.
deferred drainage improvement. Yeah. Okay. Does everybody understand that motion?
Just for clarity, the total of the base bid plus alt 2 minus the 50,000 would be $840,834. Is that what you've got in there?
I don't want to use that number. I would take the 50,000 off the base bid, but I don't want to do the 8, whatever.
It actually applies to both, though. If you add them together, you need to include it in both.
No, because I'm backing it out as what we're going to pay. If I start with a lower number and still agree to pay 130,000, then I've paid the 50,000 twice.
I'll have to defer to Ted. Do you have an opinion on that?
Restate it real quick, John.
I don't think I can do that.
Let's just for the minutes, be clear.
So I was going to take the base bid of 717,000 and alternate 2 at 173,000. The city would pay 131,000 for deferred maintenance, and we would pay the cost of alternate 2, and we would use the HDPE pipe to lower the, that would, I don't know, now I'm confusing myself. That would lower the total cost we were paying.
Yeah. So John, the 890 does not include the 50,000 taken out. So if you're going to do the HDPE, you'd need to lower both the base bid and the total bid of the two to account for that 50,000, which would be the 131,000.
Okay.
That,
then I need to lower the amount the city's going to kick in too.
well, the 131. The 131 is the lowered amount. It was 182. It drops to 131.
And just to be clear, that means we're actually paying the 35,000 some change more than what we had originally planned.
Correct.
And I'm okay with that based on what we paid for Cozy. Okay. So a total, the base bid, we're going to take the 50,000 out of the base bid then?
Correct. It would be $667,257 on the base
67.
bid.
And also 50,000 out of base plus alt 2.
Correct.
And we still pay 131
Correct.
because we're going to bump ours up a little bit, plus alt 2. Okay, if we can figure out how to say that. Anybody want to object before I before I go to the effort again?
So here's what I'm hearing, and tell me if I got this wrong. We're going to change the base bid to 667,257,
Correct.
correct?
That's the 50,000.
and we're going to change the drainage to 305,324.
the total of
The
the two
total
that the city
of the
would be
drainage. Right.
contributing. Correct.
Okay, and the 173 does not change.
Correct.
Only the base bid changes.
Wait a minute. That's not what I thought I said. I didn't come up with 300 anywhere.
Well, the 300 is the drainage of the base
Oh, you want to
bid
add the,
plus the alternate 2 is where the 300 comes from. 305,000 if you do the 50,000 reduction for the HDPE.
Correct.
so you're at 304, 305,000.
305, yeah.
Okay, but I didn't want to use that number because I want the city to pay the 131,000
Well,
plus the costs of the adult too. And yeah, that comes out to that, but I wanted to very specifically mention the 131
okay. Well, you can certainly do that.
because back
Of-
to your
of the base
question
bid.
of why we're paying that much is we have a very specific reason for that $131,000 we're kicking in.
And you can certainly say that. Just say the base bid is 667,257, and the drainage is 173,577, and of that 667,257, 131,747 is for drainage that the city is going to pay for. That makes sense?
No, because I lost half of what you said.
Okay. We're reducing the 257.
Okay, yeah, well, we didn't even mention that number anyway.
Okay, but we're reducing it to 667,257 because of the HDPE.
Okay, so
That
we're
makes sense?
motion to accept the base bid from Kansas Paving and alternate 2 for a total bid amount not to exceed $840,834, with the city paying $131,000 for deferred maintenance on the ditches, plus the $173,577 for the alt 2 ditch repair, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I think you got it.
No,
I
I
think
just
you
said
got it.
131. You want 747 amended? You make the motion.
I think that gets it. Anybody else? Everybody agree or not agree or what?
Somebody's got to second it. before
Yeah,
we-
somebody has to second it before we can vote on it.
If they don't second it, they need to come up with their own.
Do we get a second on this? If we don't get a second, I'm going to declare the motion dead.
It's dead.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, did you explain Alt 1 at all?
So, sorry, excuse me.
Did you explain Alt 1 at all?
So Alt 1, what that was is we had, the project was designed with a concrete intersection out there to minimize damage on the pavement from traffic turning. Alt 1 was going to delete out that concrete and change it to asphalt. So there's a minor reduction in price, but you're putting extra stress on the pavement. So in terms of longevity, the recommendation, we did that just to see what the cost savings was, but we don't recommend that.
It wasn't much. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'm trying to talk through what an easier way to say this would be. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with just saying the new base bid amount with the deduct and saying the approval of alternate 2, which is the 173,577, that total is the not to exceed 840, 834, right?
Correct.
What is wrong with saying it like that and then adding, to further clarify, the city's portion of the storm sewer as agreed is 131,747. Is that a cleaner way of saying it? Start from the top, work down, then just clarify, Maria?
I think you're getting to the same spot either way. It's
Yeah.
just,
I think that
it
gets us
matters.
there. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we memorialize that we're paying, why we're paying for this storm work. Okay. Because that's not the norm that you do in a development, but this is the development's been here for
Right.
as long as I've been alive. So I think you were getting there. So, but I think you were just finding a different way of saying exactly what John was trying to say.
Try it. Try it.
Well, this is intimidating.
Must not have been clear enough somehow, but.
So I think,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
I'm still trying to contemplate the ditches. That's what I'm thinking about because I see the arguments on both sides. What maintenance has the city done on these ditches in the last year or 2 years? Have we been out there kind of do our best, make a little progress at a time, or have they just been completely ignored?
This year, I don't believe that we've done anything out there. Last year, I believe either in 23 or 22, I know we worked on Dr. Burrow's ditch a little bit, and I'm thinking that's it. I don't know that there's any other ditches that we cleaned up. We've done some culvert cleanouts. I'm not sure if that was in the Aurora Park neighborhood or in others, but there's been some ditch work, but not much. It's just a matter of trying to fit it in when the weather's conducive and making sure that the homeowner and council is amenable to it. With this project that's with Garver, all of Garver's work, we do have a plan moving forward as far as grades to shoot for. But yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of concerted effort just because it's time and then knowing that this drainage project was forthcoming. Hopefully.
Part of the problem with Public Works and what they're doing, and I know they're trying to do as best they can, but part of the problem that they have is they don't have enough information about the big picture of what needs to be done in a particular zone of a particular ditch. Dr. Bro's property is near the end of where all the water comes from because he's right there next to that lake, and that water comes out of that lake right down into the ditch, and then it comes across the road and does a little bit of everything. And it's supposed to just go straight to, I think, to 37th, right?
No, it actually goes, there's a drainage easement that goes around a property that was actually, there's a shed on the current drainage
Yeah.
easement. It was supposed to cut kind of catty corner through the back of the property, but somebody a long time ago said, no, it's okay if you just move the drainage ditch around. So that's part of the problem. That hasn't been cleaned out either.
Okay.
Because it's
Mr.
on
Mayor.
property.
I'm not sure that comment is entirely what my understanding is in terms of like the staff not having the bigger picture, because I think Garver has prepared that information for staff to give them the bigger picture. And I remember one of the things that I was excited about out of that deliverable of that broader drainage study was that staff was going to have something to work from so that when they were doing things in that area, it was going to be furthering the plan that Garver had put together. Now, I recognize that Public Works is Public Works and they do a lot of different things and have a lot of different capabilities, and their work on the ditches may not be what Kansas Paving is going to do on the ditches because they're going to have different equipment and maybe people that's all they do is work on ditches. But I do think that as Public Works has been doing stuff, I hope they've been working towards that plan that Garver put together.
That is correct. We now have that plan and we can now put that together. Dr. Burrow's issue was with the water coming out through his driveway culvert. It was causing a lot of pooling and just hollowing out of the area underneath. So that area was filled in. There was not a whole lot of grading done down the ditch that I remember other than just smoothing things out. So there is a lot of work that does need to be done. You really need to start at the bottom. of the drainage area and work your way back up and not just in the middle. So now that we have the Garver plan and have had it for a couple years, then we can concertedly work towards it, but it doesn't really satisfy the citizens because they don't like what we've done. We've gotten a lot of complaints. We can't take care of our ditches now that you guys have come and screwed it up. But it's like, it's kind of a one way or the other. It's, do you want us to do it? Do you want us to fix the drainage? If so, we're going to do what we can. We can have Kansas Paving come in. I'm not going to say it's perfect. There's still going to be a ditch. The ditch is probably going to be deeper than what they're used to. And they may not be happy with how it's done either. But it's, in my opinion, it'll be more uniform and done probably a better job than what we can do just because we don't have the experience and expertise.
I think one of your other problems too is there are things growing where the ditch should be. And if you get out there and start doing something to that, somebody's going to get very militant.
Yes.
And I don't know that our Public Works wants to be in the middle of that fight. Yeah, easements, things out where they're not supposed to be.
I think the other thing to consider, and I think you all remember Marty's presentation in March about their list of activities that they're going to do over the next year. And then he said, I hope we get to it this year. I love the word staff because everybody thinks there's just this enormous staff out there. No, it's Glenn, it's Marty, it's John.
How many?
I can name them all. And what I'm starting to see as we get busier and busier as a city is, yes, these are priorities. And what's going to happen is, I don't have time. Here's a contract for $20,000 to fix this section, and we'll present it to you. It's more palatable, and they approve it. So this is really getting ahead of those $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that over the next 10 years. Now, if that's the route we want to go, that's fine. I just hate to keep saying staff's going to take care of this when, unless we're willing to hire 4 more staff members and start doing all this type of work in house. That's what we kind of determining is the 177 today, worth it or not. So that's either way, we're going to do what you direct as the staff as a priority, but sometimes replacing water meters, cleaning out sewer meters are more priority than cleaning out ditches.
So Ted, your recommendation is to do alternate 2 with the ditches
Versus piecemealing
versus just doing the base bid.
or ordering Marty to do. Yeah, I mean, that would be my recommendation.
How many miles are we talking a ditch? It's got to be 3 or 4 at least, doesn't it?
On the project, as far as the ditch goes,
The alt 2 part, yeah.
I don't have that number off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Just trying to put this into something so that we can say, oh, we really aren't getting that bad of a deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as when you look at just going back to here, if you look at this here,
Half a mile.
that's a half a mile. So that's a mile of ditch right there total on that road there. This here is probably another 3/4 of a mile total. So you're probably in the 2.5 mile range as far as total length of the ditches at 12,000 feet or so.
Yeah, but that's only one side, right?
No, this is a half mile. So it'd be a 1 mile total there. This is not quite a half a mile. So that's probably 3/4 of a mile total counting it. So it's probably 2.5 to 3 miles of ditch. I don't have the number off the top of my head though.
Okay.
So 12,000 to 15,000 feet of
If
ditch
that makes
total.
it any more palatable, that's a fair amount of ditch that you're buying.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'm going to go ahead and give this an attempt.
Okay.
Motion to accept the base bid from Kansas Paving in the amount of $667,257,000 and alternate 2 in the amount of $173,577 for a total not to exceed $840,834. And just to further clarify, of the base bid amount, we are electing to save costs on pipe by taking a $50,000 deduct for use of HDPE pipe for the driveway culvert pipes. And of the base bid amount of $131,747 is being paid by the city of Bel Aire for deferred maintenance on the storm sewer ditches.
I'll second.
You don't want to add costs for paying the ditch? alternate two?
I did.
I missed that then.
And my only suggestion on that would be Kansas Paving's amended base bid amount is just to use the word amended since it's being amended by, we'll amend that contract by $50,000. We'll amend their bid by 50,000.
I'll amend my motion to say the amended base bid based on the HDPE deduct.
I'll second the amendment.
I have a motion by Mr. Dean and a second by Mr. David. Any additional questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to say my thing about, there are some people here that have 2 lots. That's a tremendous expense over 20 years. But the only other thing I was going to say is I would have liked to have seen this part of the petition be a part of the Aurora Parks Gravel Roads Task Force, because dust was the main issue, and see if it was a fairly small margin of people that approved this. But I appreciate the dust issue. My kid takes music lessons up there, so I'm going to selfishly enjoy that if this does pass. So anyhow, that's why I'm not supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Hamburg in the negative.
Thank you.
That extra $300 made all the difference.
Thank you. Complicated deal. So I would like to suggest that we skip to executive session. And we do need 30 minutes executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Before we do that.
Okay, we'll do a 5-minute recess. I have a motion by Ms. Hamburg and a second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in recess for 5 minutes.
You beat me to it.
Okay, we held 5-minute recess and I'm ready for motion for executive session for 30 minutes. And this will be attorney-client privilege with Mr. Neil Ghosh.
And Mr. Mayor, since we're moving items, could we get a motion in a second, please?
Okay, I have a motion to go to executive session, item 13 at the point of item F, 12F.
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
Motion by Mr. David. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, so now we need a motion for the executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I will make a motion to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of attorney-client privilege pursuant to the KSA 754319 exception for,
30 minutes.
what is our exception here?
Oh, this is negotiation.
Contracts.
Contract negotiation.
For contract negotiations, inviting the city manager, the city attorney, and Neil Ghosh. The meeting will be for a period of 30 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 9:43 p.m.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Executive session for 30 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session and no binding action was taken. Move on to item F. This is an ordinance accepting City of Bel Aire, exempting City of Bel Aire from provisions of KSA 12-1651. Bel Aire City Council expressed interest in exempting themselves from the requirement to publish certain legal notices in general circulation newspaper, a requirement created by the KSA 12-1651. Maria has included a report in your packet outlining the multi-step process. On the agenda tonight are two initial steps. Steps one is passing a charter ordinance to empower the city to use self-publication. Step two is passing an ordinary ordinance to set the date of referendum election, holding the referendum vote during the August election, avoid, any additional cost to the city, which is a major concern during previous city council discussion. The estimated cost savings for self-publication on the city website put into use would probably be about $4,500 per year. So some comments on what charter ordinance does or may not do. The City of Bel Aire only publishes legal notices in the Ark Valley News, never in the Bel Aire Breeze. The ordinance allows us to discontinue some publications in the Ark Valley News and post them on the Bel Aire website. I am unaware of any Bel Aire citizens that subscribe to the Ark Valley News or query the Ark Valley News website for information regarding Bel Aire. Moving these legal notices to Bel Aire website increases access and transparency of these legal notices to our citizens, moves them from a weekly publication to a 24/7 access to this information. We have been publishing these notices on our website for the last 2 months or so. Anyone who wants to review these legal notices has the ability today on the Bel Aire website. This ordinance allows us to discontinue publishing some legal notices in Ark Valley News. Some may think it odd that we publish these legal notices in Ark Valley News. In the first place, I agree. That's not a resource I think of when I want to know something about Bel Aire. The reason the Ark Valley News has been used is that the state statute requires these legal notices to be published in a publication that comes out at least weekly. The Ark Valley News does that. These legal notices have never been published in the Bel Aire Breeze because this is a monthly publication and the Bel Aire Breeze does not meet the statutory requirements. Some stated previously that this ordinance threatens the future of Bel Aire Breeze. The Bel Aire Breeze and the Ark Valley News are both published by Strunk Publishing. Of course, the city has no say in what publisher of these papers decides to do. The estimated revenue reduction to Strunk Publishing, if the citizens approve this ordinance, is about $4,500 per year. This ordinance moves us to being more transparent about these legal notices. We want citizens to weigh in on their desires. So if approved, we will ask for this to be placed on the August ballot for vote of the people. And so Maria is here to answer any questions.
Do we want to address these separately or together?
You have to address them separately because one's a charter ordinance and one's a.
I meant as far as questions.
Oh, as far as discussion, yeah. I think that's fine. I thought you meant a motion. You can't combine the motions.
My question was, last time we tried this, it wasn't this, it was the term limits. We were told that what we wrote to put onto ballot was not appropriate because it didn't require us to enact whatever it was the citizens voted on. Are we going to run into that same roadblock with this?
This is different. This is different. This is going to be based upon the electorate's decision. It is going to be something that is acted upon. From what I understand, your last experience was basically administrative, advisory oriented.
Yeah, I don't think it got written the way we intended to. It's the problem, but I just want to make sure we don't hit that objection again in 3 weeks when we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you're right, John. But no, this has been written in a specific way so that it can be onto the ballot. It's following everything regarding the Kansas Constitution, where a governing body can take a charter ordinance, submit that on a referendum, that there's even specific language to use as provided by the Constitution. And this is all following in lines with that.
Okay. So have we run this by the county election office to get their blessing?
There have been conversations, yes, and so far everything does meet Kansas constitutional requirements. If the governing body approves this, I will officially and formally submit it to them for review.
Okay. That's my big grievance. That's
Mr. Mayor.
too many eyes to dot.
Ms. Hamburg.
Along the same lines. So the issue is that it is binding. So if the voters say no, we will have to keep publishing everything in the Ark Valley News. If the voters say yes to the referendum, it's still our choice, correct? We could still keep publishing in the paper, like if we weren't happy with kind of what we had seen with the test run of the online notices. But if it's no, we will keep publishing in the Ark Valley News.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
just to be clear, I think that if the voters vote no, the city will still be required to designate an official newspaper and publish in that newspaper.
Yes.
And right now, it's currently designated as the Ark Valley News, but that can be
Good
changed.
clarification. Correct.
You're right. Yes.
Right. If the answer is no, we can't designate the city website as our newspaper. Okay.
Maria, can you, just for the public's benefit, the items that we will still have to publish in a designated paper, what do those look like? What are the things we're just going to always have to by state statute?
So one of those examples would be treasurer's report, eminent domain, budget, public hearings, lease purchases. Those specific items you can publish on the city website, but it's just not sufficient. It would also have to be published in a newspaper, such as the Ark Valley, Wichita Eagle, the Derby Informer, correct?
So we would, let me follow that up then. So our process, if we move forward and the referendum is approved, would be all the items by the statute that's required to be in a paper will go to a paper because that's required. It will still also be on the website where all of our other publications are. So we'll be duplicating public. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's what our process would look like.
It could be. There has been no specific formal process developed yet.
Gotcha.
But that could be done. We're just going to publish, I shouldn't say we, Bel Aire will publish everything on the city website. But for those that are specifically required to be in a newspaper, those will have an additional step.
Gotcha.
Those will go over to the newspaper.
And just for clarification, the reason that is because the statutes are very clear that those have to be published in a publication, a newspaper, and the statute does not differentiate as to class of city. And whereas the particular ones that have been carved out here, the statutes have a difference for different types, classes of cities, so we can exempt ourselves out of that.
Nope, thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate that.
And right now, there are a list of cities that have already done this. There's 14: Andover, Augusta, Basehor, Dodge City, Hayes, Heston, Hillsborough, Lake Quivira, Lenexa, McPherson, Moundridge, Pratt, Salina, and Victoria.
So that's a pretty good list.
So far,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
So, and just to be clear, we are if we pass this charter ordinance and then we pass the referendum to put it on the ballot, the referendum we are voluntarily doing in response to the voters' petition last fall, correct? We are not, we could technically still pass this and force them to go through the petition process again, but we are putting it on the ballot. That next item is, if we choose, is to honor that petition back in the fall, correct?
That's true. Because with any charter ordinance, a petition for referendum must be filed within 61 days after publication. If that protest petition was valid and filed, then the Bel Aire would have to call a special election if they wanted to continue with the charter ordinance. But right now, if it's approved and if you don't have a valid petition filed, you don't need to call a special election. I will say that it appears as though the constitutional provision for petitions of charter ordinance requires 10% of the number of electors who voted. So going back to the last general election of 2021, 1,514 ballots were cast. You would need 10%, which is 151 signatures. So a civilian would have to go through that process of gaining 151 signatures all over again. And just as you said, it was mentioned last time by the council of not wanting to put that upon a civilian again, to consider submitting to a referendum on your own.
There was one other difference there too, though. The signatories to the petition did not have to be residents of the city of Bel Aire.
That's
And
true.
the people voting on this will have to be residents of the city of Bel Aire. So it will be Bel Aire citizens deciding what's happening to Bel Aire.
That's
Is
correct.
that true? They can make a petition and bring a bunch of people from Wichita to sign the petition, and we'd have to honor that petition?
It was all across the state from what I heard.
Well, it was, I believe,
They only had to be registered voters.
I'm looking at the petition right now of the signatures, and all of the signatures for their residents was Bel Aire.
Okay, well, it's academic anyway, because we're not bound by that petition anymore because
And
We
the
didn't-
petition
we just let
specific,
it pass.
Right.
Right.
and it specifically says in the petition, I am a registered elector of the state of Kansas. And then they write their residence, but all of these signatures are Bel Aire.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. That's very odd wording of a,
I found it very strange myself
wow. Okay.
that we could go impact something happening to the city of Topeka by referendum.
I want to clarify that though. I think you could carry the petition if you were from the state of Kansas, but I think the approved signers to get to the number had to be Bel Aire residents, if I was understanding that correctly.
Because it's talking about the ballots cast by Bel Aire registered voters. Mhm. Correct.
Okay.
Citrus
I
County
guess
would
it's
have
all in the way of the
certified
word.
All those signatures, and it was all on the up and up. But like you said, it's academic because we're
Right.
moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. That's for another day.
Mhm.
But the reason why I'm bringing it up too is just the number of petitions doesn't change. We're still going to use the same threshold. Since we've moved forward in time, it's still that same number of threshold if they redid the petition, correct?
The-
They're not comparing it to another election.
No,
Okay.
it would be 151 signatures.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We did have an election.
That would be for a new petition, but for this ballot measure, it's a simple majority
Of the voters.
of Bel Aire votes.
Right. I'm speaking only to the petition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there won't be a petition here because there's no reason to. We're already putting it on the ballot. And that's all the petition would do is put it on a ballot. So,
Well, my point is we hadn't voted on that. So I was considering the idea of if, you know what I mean, if the numbers had changed. I just wanted to be clear. What we were doing is honoring that petition that we're not actually bound by
Right.
if we move forward with the referendum.
right.
No, I appreciate
Thanks.
you clarifying that because we did intentionally let it lapse. So we reserve the right to do it again. No, thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
I'll make a motion to adopt Charter Ordinance Number 25, exempting the city of Bel Aire from the provisions of KSA 12-1651 relating to designation of an official city newspaper and providing substitute and additional provisions on the same subject.
Second.
motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Welch. Any additional questions or discussion? This is a roll call vote, so I'm going to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Aye.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Aye.
Mr. Justin Smith,
Aye.
Mr. John Welch,
Aye.
and Mayor Jim Benaj.
Aye.
And motion carries 6-0, Mayor.
Thank you. On item G, and item G is really just the motion to put this referendum on the ballot for the August election.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance calling a referendum election to approve proposed charter ordinance 25 of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, and setting the election for the same in conjunction with the statewide August primary election.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Item 14, discussion of future issues. We have a city workshop on May 14th at 6:30. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be a joint workshop with the planning commission. We're going to start our comprehensive plan. So it's going to be about a couple hour discussion with our contractor, and he's going to lay everything out, and we'll start that. Anything else, I'll try to keep to June.
Okay. This is the planning commission well aware of this, I assume, right?
Yes, they
Okay.
are. Yeah.
All right. Very good. Any other things we need to talk about on future issues? Hearing none, I'll move on to adjournment. Take a motion to adjourn. Everyone wants to stay here or having so much fun?
Yeah, it's been a blast tonight.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's too bad. We're adjourned. That motion carries 5-0.